Hello, everyone. This is our Drupal Core Cross Initiatives meeting for October 11th, 2018. We have a bunch of people from various initiatives. We're going to see what to celebrate and what to unblock for each other. We have 3 core committers on the call, so I hope we can unblock some stuff. Let's see. I don't think we have admin UI JavaScript modernization here yet. But we have API first. Gabe, do you want to go? But you are muted, Gabe.
Sorry, it wasn't muted before. Anyway, I don't have a ton to report. So I guess since the last time we did cut a 2x version, so we're on beta 2 of JSON API. We're holding off on releasing an RC because there are a couple of kind of satellite modules that we want to make sure are compatible with 2x before we do that. So that means JSON API extras, decoupled router, and consumer image styles. Other than that, we're making pretty quick and significant progress on supporting content moderation in JSON API. I think that's pretty much it. We kind of big news is that we're down to effectively 0 bug reports across all versions, 1x and 2x, and less than 50 issues altogether. So that's good news.
That's all great news. What is there anything that anyone on this call or elsewhere can do to unblock or accelerate your efforts?
I don't think so. I mainly came just to get updates on everybody else.
Okay, cool. And to brag a little bit. Just kidding. Yeah. That's awesome.
Another thing we're working on is kind of official translation support too, for at least read-only.
Cool. I would be happy to help. I haven't seen the issue move recently, but I may have missed updates to that.
I'm going to actually go find one issue because there is a blocking or kind of sort of blocking issue on rights. Let me look that up and I'll let you know in a few minutes.
Cool. All right. Who we have next? We have automated updates. Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I can give an update. You're talking to me, Ryan?
Yes.
I'm the only Ryan. Just making sure I'm the only Ryan on the call. Sometimes there's more than one. Yeah, the Composer Initiative. I think we got some momentum at Drupal Europe, and since then it's just been kind of recovering from that. And like internally, I've been focusing on some GitLab things, but now I've kind of switched my focus back to it, and had some really good brainstorming sessions and came to a point where there's sort of a question in building a Drupal site moving forward and how core currently uses its lock file and what the expectations of an end user would be for basically an engineering trade-off of safety versus a different kind of safety. So and this is maybe just kind of get anybody else's thoughts on this. It's a question of when you start a Drupal site, ideally you either want something that satisfies, you want all the dependencies that come in to have been tested. You don't want to start a brand new Drupal site that gives you a brand new dependency that has a bug in it, right? We wouldn't, so when we package Drupal or when someone does a compose or create project, we want them to start at a starting point that is a known good point, right? But then what happens after that is kind of the next question. If someone updates a module or updates core, the question is, should they be bound to a specific set of core dependencies, or should there be a looser sort of thing from that point forward? And that's where we're trying to kind of tease out like what should happen. And like right now we have the core strict plugin that Webflow built, and trying to decide whether or not that should be part of core, or whether or not that is too limiting and causes people to get stuck on versions and then they won't be able to upgrade to newer things, or what. And so that's really that's where our thought space is right now, is trying to that's a good question, Adam. I will find that. It's not necessarily being debated as much as we just started talking about it in IRC yesterday, or 2 days. I mean, Slack a couple days ago. So, I will find a issue for that. But I would love some thoughts on whether or not what the best path forward for that is. We have some opinions, but more opinions on this would be useful. So I'll find that. But that's pretty much the only update for me.
Ryan, anything to report on automatic updates?
I don't have anything to report on that. I've just been, following along in the issues, but I haven't been paying attention too much to what has been going on with like Peter and David and what they're working on, or and Baton. The only other thing that kind of came up as part of the automatic updates thing that I started kind of digging into a little bit, which is another kind of impending just around the corner core issue, which is the concept of core compatibility, where we have this idea that something is matches core's dependency level of like a Drupal 7 module versus a Drupal 8 module, and all the places that kind of leaks into. Because when we start talking about the timeline for Drupal 9, where we say the launch is going to be to where we say we open the branch is going to be to where we need Drupal.org to be ready for this sort of stuff, it kind of all backs up to, oh, that's actually pretty soon, and probably within a year, actually. And so the idea of a module being able to support both 8 and 9 means that we need to kind of address this conceptual one-to-one relationship. And the way that this relates to auto updates is the current update system, all the URLs have 8.x baked into them. And so then the question is, well, how, like, do we need to redesign that API before Drupal 9 comes out? So that was the main, like, this tangentially related thing actually is, baked right into the API of the updates process. So that's something else that probably, I don't know if there's an issue in core for addressing the core compatibility stuff or not, but
yeah, I will take a look. I have a feeling that there will be one, but
yeah, somewhere around there. I didn't look for it. I just started kind of digging. I actually dug around in the core code base just to see what the nature of how we actually use that. And it's, it's URLs for translations, it's URLs for updates. Because that's another thing we're gonna have to look at, is like localize. If we're going to support a module and we're going to support translations for that module, and that module is going to straddle both 8 and 9, what's the URL for the translation for that module? You know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
doesn't localize do super clever stuff, Gabo? Like where if you request like something for a future version, it just gives you the old version.
There's until that's available, yes. I think we are symlinking some paths to other paths, and we have like general paths that are symlinked, but we are not dynamically responding to dynamic paths because that would be not very sustainable for the number of queries that are being run, I think. At least that was the idea. Right? I'm not sure that we have cold hard numbers on the requests. But yeah, we can have more magic there, but we definitely need to implement more magic there, even if we can implement that in the current framework. Yeah. But yeah, we also need to do that in core for update data, etc.
yeah. But anyways, just the I think we need to think about this sooner than later because it's all coming so much sooner than later.
Yeah, so one idea that recently Jess suggested is to set up a bona fide Drupal 9 initiative. That's an initiative like one of these that would have like public meetings and stuff. So we would be able to attract people who are interested in like country maintainers who are interested in what they can do about that, and talk about all of these interdependent pieces and tools that we need to work on and track them and tag them and etc. Because yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And it's not just part of automatic updates, but a lot of other areas where we deprecate stuff and want to remove things and want to have a API in a state where we are more proud of the API and not just half removed something and half there's something.
Right, like all the tweets that Gibran was putting out about basically like, here's all the technical debt we have. Do we want to address this before Drupal 9? Do we want to address this before Drupal, you know, kind of a...
That too, yeah. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
But yeah, a Drupal 9 initiative sounds like a great idea. Kind of a exploratory committee or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's move on to config management then. Fabian or Alex or both. Hello. Or neither.
I'll go. I was being British and polite. But obviously I was out polited by a Swiss person. Anyway, yeah, so we're busy working on the config transformer, which, as the name suggests, is more than meets the eye. It's basically bringing Fabian's config filter into core, and we've not got any blockers at the moment. Not working on that. We're just kind of discussing the architecture, trying to get it right, trying to bring config filter in the right way that provides all the functionality that has bred the plethora of modules that are available for doing different things with config. So we can continue to support that, but also solve the kind of 99% use case that everyone has, the problem that everyone has with having different configuration in different environments. So, for example, having the devel module or file state proxy module on development and having a specific module for your hosting provider enabled in live. So yeah, the progress is okay, but yeah, no blockers. Am I right, Fabian?
Yeah, we on the last meeting we uncovered lots of like these hidden or less obvious like difficulties especially with updating stuff that it only runs ever on production. Like updating a module that you have only enabled on production or in a specific environment, and then how we solve that. And that's like, yeah, we will have to find some smart way of doing that.
All right. So I've been trying to collect a lot of updates in the background from others. So when their time comes and they're not here, I can report on behalf of them. I think we have documentation now. We have Matthew.
Hey, I've kind of lost my voice, so I'm going to keep speaking to a minimum if I can. This kind of release cycle, the major goal for the documentation initiative is to release another official documentation guide. It's going to be called the Getting Started Guide, and the purpose of the guide is to provide people with a clear recommended path for starting a new Drupal application locally and all that entails. So setting up a local dev environment, creating the application, installing it, configuring it, etc. So that requires making some controversial decisions, like what local dev environment we're going to recommend, because the point is to not provide a whole bunch of options. And we have an issue open. Let me paste it in chat right now. I can find it in my clipboard. And I've actually drafted 2 different versions of this guide. Both of them are using the same local dev solution, DDev, which is kind of up for debate, but it met all of the criteria that we established would be necessary for a local dev solution that we'd recommend. I don't feel that this has gotten enough feedback or enough eyes on it. So I've made multiple calls for people to look at it and review it and comment. And we've gotten some activity, but I expect it to be controversial. And I haven't seen a lot of controversy, which kind of makes me think people haven't read it too much. So I'm kind of asking at large for people on this call and for anyone who watches this to take a look at the issue, provide feedback. Criticism is fine as long as it's constructive, and otherwise it's actually ready to go. We just need to have sufficient community buy-in and peer review. So that's it for me. Click the link, read the issue, take a look at the drafts. There you can view the rendered copy on GitLab. Kind of fancy. Thank you. That's it.
I think it will definitely be controversial once people know about the issue. We've struggled to even recommend Drush in core, which isn't really an opinionated thing in terms of it's not built by a company or has any commercial aspect to it at all. So like going from that to recommending like a starting environment which does have like some commercial stuff is going to be interesting when the community will react if we just went straight through with it.
Yeah, and I've tried to kind of make the argument, at least the problem we're solving is the problem that there's too many options, and so we kind of have to pick something. But to be as impartial as possible, we started by saying, like, here are the requirements and the criteria for the thing we choose, and agreeing on that. Like, yes, these are the priorities and in this order. And then, if we agree on that, then the choice can kind of be more impartial. But I agree, I expect controversy, and that's okay. And that controversy is the reason that we're in a position where we don't have a recommendation for people, and we know that's a big problem for people. So controversy is expected, but I haven't seen it. So that's why I feel like no one's reading it.
Well, it's not very clear from the activity on this issue that's clear. That's the question or something. There's a lot of other activity going on here. It's hard to piece that out. That is what's going to be controversial, I guess. But that is a key question. Is not listed in the issue summary.
That's a good point. I'll list the decision points in the summary.
Kind of on the side. So do you think that calling attention to this issue now would be useful? Like if you would tweet about that more widely? I think you've tweeted about it, but
yeah, better to raise the issue now than after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I've posted it in our documentation Slacks,
mm-hmm.
and they're public with lots of people. They have @here disabled, so I don't know how many people managed to see the message, but yeah, lots of tweets and things like that. But this is another good forum for that, and it's a good recommendation. I will particularly call out the controversial decision points
Mm-hmm.
at the very beginning for people. Yeah,
because it's not clear at all. It looks like an innocent issue with, we just
an innocent issue. Yeah, it is an innocent issue.
I know, but I know. I know, but if we are concerned, and we're rightly concerned that some people will have strong opinions on this, then it's better to forego that, figuring that out later. Yeah, agreed.
But it is a controversial issue to be recommending software that's has a commercial motive. Like that's a big whole new thing for us.
Yeah.
So I think like what even if the community, even if like a small section of the community comes to the decision and documents it, if that's the decision, then when it goes out there, we're going to have some pretty good answers to why we recommend that.
Yeah, and I think we'll need disclaimers so people clearly understand, like, we are recommending something that is not maintained by the Drupal core team, and et cetera, right?
Yeah, because we don't want to get into. I mean, we definitely don't want to get into a position where we can't release Drupal because it doesn't work on Drud stuff, right? Like, that would be. Well, you can't do this release because you can't start it up in DDEV.
Yeah, we don't want that. Although, on a personal level, and I don't want to go too much into a tangent here because this conversation should happen in the issue. I would love to see us evolve into officially supporting a solution the way that like Laravel or Symfony do with like Homestead, where it's it's open source, it's not commercial, and is supported and tested, so that we just have a go-to. But that's another conversation. All right, so post your opinions in the issue queue. That's it for me.
And once you update the issue summary, we can promote that more and call that to attention. Anyone feels like they have updates on extended security support process? I don't think, but you never know. All right.
I sort of do. It would have been good for us to know that this was going to happen a little bit sooner, because right now you can't configure Drupal CI to test against the extended security branch, because that's never been an option. So I need to add that. That'll be coming soon, but it would just yeah, I wish I knew about it sooner. That's all. But I guess some people were saying that they just heard about it in Dre's keynote as well. So I guess that's the.
I mean, it was brought up in Nashville. What would have helped raise it to your radar sooner?
Boy, I don't know. It was just kind of a surprise that, like, oh, hey, we're extending support, and so therefore there's a new there's new branches that need to be considered. But I guess sometimes I feel like QA gets left out of the loop on product decisions of, if it will have an impact on QA, sort of thing.
Yeah, there's certainly been a lot of work going on to the update status data and the UI in core, etc. But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, in any case, it's just one of those things where if there's a checklist of like all the people we should touch base with to make sure that, you know, a decision is going to work, just add QA or CI to that checklist is all I'm asking.
Yeah.
But coming soon, there will be a way for contrib maintainers to be able to test against the secure supported branch so that they don't accidentally introduce things that are only in the current stable, and then people have to upgrade their module to a secure release that doesn't work anymore against the old branch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all.
Cool. All right, thank you. Do we have somebody from layouts? Probably not. Media, we do.
Damn, I've been found out. Well, not a whole lot of change since the last time. We are getting closer and closer to having a sprint organized, probably somewhere, in fact, almost certainly somewhere in Europe, that will bring in some very big brains and also some UX people and a committer or two to push hard for media's goals in 8.7, which we still have to get consensus on this from everybody, but I feel like the goals for 8.7 are really about delivering feature completeness. So what that means is really two things. It means CK editor integration for media library, and also media library supporting OEmbed. And then we also have a few UX issues that are blocking. Yeah, no, they absolutely do. Yeah. So we have a few UX issues that are blocking media being able to be in standard, and until we kind of solve those problems, we can't really officially make media like the preferred solution and sort of deprecate the file and image modules. So that's a thing we'd hope to push for as well. And this is all sort of repeating from last week, but the only real development is that we're getting closer to actually having that sprint. So yeah, that's about all I got on the media front. Any questions?
Challenges? Anything that we can help with now?
Well, one thing that will be happening soon is, as far as, so I said we needed to add some features. One of the things I think we want to do that worked really well for the 8.6 cycle is to have mockups that are approved, that are reviewed by UX and approved by UX, and just implement to the mockups, which is something when we were doing the first round with Media Library, that's a thing that Sam was very adamant about. And I think it was a really good way to work. So ideally we would we would start a sprint beginning with mockups, or finish them early in the sprint and implement to those. So I am going to be talking to Emily Nouveau today about potentially helping us come up with those before the sprint begins. And I don't think there's anything else that we need right now from anyone in this call. But yeah, worth mentioning. Oh, one thing I could also mention, now that I think about it, is one of these sort of dark things that looms on the horizon is, I believe that integration with content moderation may be a standard blocker for media. So I don't know what kind of, there's a lot of like unknown unknowns there. So I don't have any specific things that workflow could do to unblock me, but it's a thing that we may need to be thinking about probably in the 8.8 dev cycle. So just so you know, that's on the horizon.
All right. I'm not sure if you are up to date on Migrate. Lucas said on chat that he did not have anything to report, which I doubt.
I would actually agree with him on that.
Oh, really?
Like looking at the notes from last time, it sounds a lot like where we're still at. Like there are still multilingual issues. I saw one landed recently that I was not involved in, but you know, multilingual, I'm not heavily involved in that, but I know that it's the main development focus right now for the team. That and refactoring things for Drupal 9. So a lot of excitement there, but you know, we're kind of talking about that amongst ourselves. One thing we are doing is we're talking to Mike Ryan in back channels, because he is trying to rebuild the underlying parts of the migration system as like a completely Drupal independent PHP library. And he has a pretty strong vision for that he shared with us. So I don't know exactly how that factors into the Drupal 9 stuff, but ideally, whatever Mike is working on, we would be involved with it as well and kind of hopefully integrate it into Drupal 9, which is sort of more getting off the island stuff. And but yeah, I don't have anything concrete to report there. It's just we've been talking to Mike and he's been working on this. So hopefully he starts sharing some code with us soon and we get to take a look at that. But it's exciting.
Yeah, that would need to be somehow added to Drupal 8 though, you know. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Discussions last week.
Yeah, it would have. I don't know how we'd add it to Drupal 8, which is why I'm not saying anything concrete right now. But
yeah, those definitely need to be discussed more.
It's exciting if we can get it to work. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. So I think more patches got committed since last meeting for Migrate. I've just seen one committed today for vocabulary multilingual settings. Boop. And the move logic from the get plugin into the row class just landed also. So there's a lot more issues that have been worked on for multilingual since the last meeting. So I think there's still plenty to celebrate from the aftermath of the mini sprint last week. I've been reviewing a couple and I pushed back on one of them that still needed some more tests, but that was also very close. So it's been a really active week last week for Migrate. It's just split between the last week's meeting notes and this week's meeting notes because we have this meeting on Thursday. All right. In the meantime, I see Matthew updated the issue summary for the issue, so we'll be able to promote that to get more feedback. That is great. So out of the box, I don't think is represented here. Nope. And they also said in Slack that they are not available. But I've seen that they are working hard on various things. And I reviewed a few issues for them in terms of RTL support, etc. that has been worked on at Drupal Europe. And now some of the issues are being tagged for Badcamp contribution launch soon, I think 2 weeks from now. So they had got a lot of love at Drupal Europe, so I think they were going to have some at Badcamp as well. And I don't have any further updates on what happened. I don't think they had their weekly meeting this week. So, yeah, no. So no other progress. Do we have anyone from PHP Unit? I'm just going to look at the simple test countdown. Number for that before.
Yeah, we're below 50.
Ah, it's 41 tests now on simple test. Yay! Even better. Getting very close.
What's the prognosis on those remaining tests? Are any of them like, oh, that's so huge, we're never going to get that done? Or is it like there's momentum on all of them and like there's a path forward for everything?
I get the feeling that they're just tricky ones where you've got decisions about whether to convert them into like a browser test or a functional JavaScript, and some of the complexities about like how you break a test apart and do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's any things that like are completely tricky. Like install a test space is done, update test space is done. So like the really really hard ones are done. It's just working, just doing it.
Awesome.
So it should be down to 1 page of issues then. That's nice. Oh, very cool. Great. Another thing to celebrate. Workflow, we have Andre.
Yes.
Hi.
So lately I've been, just chugging along on the roadmap. We have a big patch ready. The API for updating entity schemas, which works generically for non-revisionable to revisionable, from non-multilingual to multilingual. So every combination of entity type statuses work with this new API. And I've also implemented, I've updated the taxonomy term conversion to revisionable and the menu link conversion to use the new API, and everything works properly. So on this front, we just need the reviews, I guess. It would be helpful if Francesco had some time to look at it. So that's on the revisionable part. I started the work on converting path aliases to entities. That will be a bit tricky. I've been talking to Nat and Sasha in the past few days, and it will require some fairly big, let's say in quotes, updates, both in core and in path auto and maybe redirect as well. But on the bright side, making all these changes will give us integration with workspaces for free, basically. I could go into details if anyone is interested on what the challenge is there, but if not, maybe someone else wants to speak.
Sounds good. The only other thing for the workflow team is I ran your guys' proposed roadmap, like 8.7 roadmap, past the core committers. This was last week or the week before, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the feedback back from them was like, there's a whole bunch of there's a whole suite of issues in your roadmap against conflict resolution. So the idea of like a conflict was detected, let's figure out if we can merge it in without disrupting things. Let's flag it as a conflict and give some kind of a UI to, kind of like, let's make Git in Drupal.
That's exactly what we're trying to do with Workspace.
Yeah, I know. Which is neat. But the core committers were saying that as an interim thing, the biggest thing they're concerned about is having conflict detection so that it's not possible to cause a loss of data because you hit a save button 0.5 seconds after someone else hit a save button. But that as far as they're concerned, the conflict detection routines are the main thing to be focusing on, at least for, I don't even know if that's an 8.7 thing because this revision stuff might take all of 8.7. But when it comes time to doing that conflict resolution stuff, that getting the conflict detection, right first is definitely the best move to do. And then the conflict resolution stuff can come later.
Yeah, I haven't given that too much thought until now.
Yeah, I
I'm
figured.
focused on the other parts. But I think the plan could be to just use the existing solution in Contrib, the conflict module. I'll have to talk with Christo Chonov and Tobias about it and see how feasible it is from their point of view.
Yeah, to be clear, I didn't get the impression that we don't want conflict resolution in core. I guess that's a separate conversation to have. But what I definitely got the impression of is they don't want us so focused on getting all of that right that we ignore like the really easy win, which is if it can detect conflicts and prevent data loss. That's a really excellent first step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So nailing that before worrying about getting all of the things going would be.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good first step on the conflict front.
Cool.
So I think that's about it for the workflow initiative.
Other than review from Francesco on the 298.4.782, the API for entity schemas issue, is there anything else that anyone on this call or any of the core committers or anything like that can do to help accelerate your efforts or unblock you?
At least for a workflow, not at the moment.
Okay.
We actually we will need to gather some feedback from the UX team on the whole conflict resolution stuff, because that will be a big UI addition to core. But like I said, it's a bit later, so not something actionable right now.
Sorry, what was that for?
So UX review for the conflict resolution UI and the whole conflict module, basically. But like I said, not for right now. We can discuss it when we get there.
I think there's a quite old design that may have been reviewed by that's an animation that Josef created. That was, I believe, reviewed by the UX team.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember those. The designs as part of the workspace stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was like showing up in that, like there was a progress bar and it was showing you
Yeah.
conflicts you've had, etc. Is this the same one or is it a different one?
Well, I don't know how the contrib module looks like right now.
All right.
I guess one idea would be to just make it look like those mockups and then go from there. But anyway, this is a discussion for sometime in the future.
Okay.
At least on my part.
All right. So I think there's Christina in the meantime sent us some chat messages on Slack. So they are going to open issue on Drupal.org to gather feedback from the community on the designs for the 7 refresh. That did not happen yet. And they are working on finishing 7's GitHub issues for MVP components to start implementation next week. So those two sound a bit contradictory to me if they are going to ask for feedback and parallel to that start implementation. But I guess we are kind of pressed on time, so hopefully will not need to reinvent everything. And I believe there's a new contributor that's going to be involved with implementing that. So hopefully they're going to have implementation, hands working on implementation. That's been a concern for quite a while. And yeah, I think that's what we have for now. Anything else that we can help with, or unblock anyone, or should be escalated to core committers, or another group that's not here that you hope to talk to someone that's not on the meeting? Well, if not, then this is it. Thanks for coming. I hope to help with the things that we noted. And feel free to ping us anytime if you have stuff we can help with.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, see ya.